Council-Appropriation Bill 2023. This Council now becomes Committee of the Whole Council to consider the Appropriation Bill 2023. In accordance with the rules of procedure, the committee will first consider the schedule and then deal with the clauses as set out in the appendix to the script. I wish to remind members that in accordance with the House rules, each member may speak more than once for up to 5 minutes each time in the debate of the committee. I now propose a question to you that the sums for the following heads stand part of the schedule. Heads 21 to 28, 30, 31, 33, 37, 39, 42, 44 to 49, 51, 53, 59, 60, 62, 63, 70, 72, 74, 76, 78 to 80, 82, 90 to 92, 94 to 96, 100, 106, 112, 104, 14, 116, 118, 120 to 122, 132, 135 to 144, 147, 148, 151, 152, 155, 156, 158 to 160, 162, 163, 166, 168 to 170, 173, 174, 180, 181, 184, 186, 188, 190, and 194. The committee will first proceed to a debate on the sums for all the heads just read out by the clerk, standing part of the schedule. Upon the conclusion of the debate, the committee will vote on the sums for all the heads standing part of the schedule and then on the schedule standing part of the bill. Mr. Teck Chi Yuen. Chairman. In the expenditure of the Labour and Welfare Bureau, I don't think there is one problem is not resolved. That is the reduction of 1% in social welfare. It's about $200 million or about 500 social welfare. If there is a reduction of recurrent expenditure of $200 million, that means we have to cut a large number of social workers. We have a number of problems, even with the past of the epidemic. There are inadequate services for elderly services, those for PWDs and other areas. With an increasing demand, you want us to accept and cut in expenditure. You're putting salt on the wound. Just now we heard that there is an increase in expenditure on social welfare as well as labor. Yes, we welcome that, but it's a different story because you need to increase expenditure to catch up. And this will continue. Let me give you an example. This year we see an increase of subsidy to carers. There are about 10,000 people. But we have altogether about 500,000 carers in Hong Kong. For elderly people, they have to wait for 3 years for a home. For persons with disabilities, they have to wait for 10 years. Yes, there is an increase in expenditure on welfare, but do we need to be proud of that? When it comes to targeted poverty alleviation, just now the Secretary told us about targeted groups that will receive assistance, but I have not heard any specific details. We keep hearing about KPIs. So when it comes to poverty alleviation, what are the KPIs? We have millions of people living in poverty. How many will be lifted out of poverty? There is no plan, there is no estimate. Without any estimate, how can I believe that you will do your poverty alleviation work well? How can we tell poor families that you will get a sense of happiness? I am sorry, I don't see that. So Mr. Soon, the Secretary and Chairman, well, you will continue to cut expenditure, which makes things more difficult. There is little concrete measures in terms of poverty alleviation. I'm afraid I cannot support the budget. Mrs. Regina Ip. Chairman, I thank the 7 public officers and the financial secretary for their detailed speeches. They have told us about the economic outlook, challenges internally, externally, opportunities, and public finance strategies. However, my points have not been addressed. That is, in relation to population projection. This affects the expenditure and investment in a lot of policy areas. I am puzzled as to what Ms. Lin said. She said that with an economic development, there will be more people. It's just a slip of the tongue, or is it based on certain kinds of calculations? Does it mean that with economic development, population will increase? A lot of people in the middle class told us that they would not have children because of a high cost of living. The Labor and Welfare Secretary told us that there is no birth policies because there is no policies to encourage families to have families. And in the education panel, I heard from Ms. Choi, the secretary, that schools will have to be merged because of a drop in population, and there won't be any small class teaching. I do think that we need a coordinated population projection so that we need to know how much we need to invest and spend. The government should tell us what their projection is, what direction it's going to take. I'm glad to hear from Mr. Soon after the GBA visit that there are many good quality elderly care service in Zhongshan, and it's very suitable for Hong Kong elderly people. And Hong Kong youngsters are welcome to go to the GBA to start their career. So how many people will go there? And how many people will come to Hong Kong from the mainland or from overseas in the medium term? I hope that there can be an accurate projection. They may not be able to give us the information today, but please do so afterwards, because this will affect our investment and expenditure. I so submit. Mr. Louis Long. Chairman, the construction sector faces problems with manpower shortage and an aging workers population. I'm glad to see that in Head 159, in relation to public works, the government said that about $170 million will be set aside for a 2-year pilot scheme to work with the Construction Industry Council and the ERB to subsidize workers to take part-time courses relating to construction, and there will be a subsidy for workers on construction safety to take relevant courses. I hope that the administration will consider to regularize these 2 pilot schemes to enhance the training for the construction industry manpower. And $75 million will be earmarked to conduct the 3 studies, including a Center for Construction Testing and Certification in Tingyi. That will be the first advanced manufacturing industry complex. And there will be a study on strengthening the supply chain of MIC. In relation to these studies, they can enhance the use of technology in the construction industry. I strongly support them. Regarding Head 90, in relation to the Labor Department, in September last year, there was the rehabilitation pilot scheme lasting 3 years. I support that. I expect that the administration will monitor the effectiveness of the pilot scheme and to explore the possibility of expanding the pilot scheme to injured workers in different industries. In 23 and 24, there will be about $800 million earmarked by the Labor Department on occupational safety and health, which is an increase of about 16.6%. With the miscellaneous amendment under occupational safety and health legislation coming into operation at the end of April, I hope that the administration will enhance publicity and public education to build a culture of OSH to enhance the OSH performance of different industries. In relation to Head 156, that is the Education Bureau, the administration said that at the Vocational Training Council, starting from 23-24, there will be a 2-year VPET training course for DSE students to take VPET related courses. In the pilot scheme, in the first stage, it will involve about $8.8 million, and it will be for 2 classes, 44 students. There will be more diversified VPET education courses that I support, but the pilot scheme only involved 44 students, which is a very small scale. It's very difficult to monitor the effectiveness of the scheme. I hope that the next year, the administration will actively consider expanding the scope of this pilot scheme. In relation to Head 141, the Labor and Welfare Bureau, the administration said that starting from October this year, for low-income family carers, there will be a pilot scheme to enhance their living allowances. And for carers of PWDs in low-income families, a similar scheme will be regularized. The monthly subsidy will be increased from $2,400 to $3,000. This is to enhance the support to carers. I strongly support that. At the same time, I expect the administration to do more than supporting carers for elderly people as well as PWDs. The allowance subsidy schemes should be expanded to carers of other categories. I support that the amounts under all the heads stand part of the schedule. Mr. Tony Zhe. Chairman, I speak in support of having the amount of the 84 heads standing part of the schedule, and I would like to elaborate. As I said in the second reading debate, just like the Financial Secretary said, that expenditure has been increasing rapidly because of the increase on welfare, health, and education, as well as increasing expenditure on civil service pay. Well, for the 4 largest heads in this budget, they are the Department of Health Education Bureau, Civil Service Pension, as well as the Social Welfare Department. They are all in the tune of hundreds or tens of billion dollars. For the 4 together equals to $330 billion, accounting for half of the total allocation of expenditure. The increase on social welfare gives rise to the concern that Hong Kong will become a welfare state. My concern is whether the expenditure is well spent, whether it can go to the right group, whether there will be any abuse, and whether it's effective to lift people out of poverty or just to encourage people to be lazy. On healthcare, the increase of expenditure is because of an aging population. Can we do more on primary healthcare to reduce the rate of increase of the expenditure? Can we make good use of technology and leverage on private market power to provide better service for elderly as well as elderly service and welfare? On education, the main expenditure goes to primary, secondary school, as well as UGC, the $200 billion. So we do need to enhance expenditure on education, but a lot of people question as to whether money spent on universities is well spent. Say, for example, have allocation of funding and subsidized or subvented programs. Can they dovetail with the developmental need of Hong Kong and also the need of manpower? The administration should play a guiding role. They can't just wash their hands because they want to give autonomy to universities. In relation to housing, the expenditure is $7.3 billion, which is small compared to other bureaus. That is mainly because of the construction and operation of public housing goes to the goes to the Housing Authority. So it's not reflected in the general account of the government. In 2023, the estimate of the Housing Authority exceeds $51 billion compared to last year, an increase of by 35%. It is expected that it will continue to climb. The reason is obvious. And it's also something that we're happy to see. There will be more housing produced at a quicker pace by the Housing Authority. There are more estates under their management. These estates are getting also more money spent on renovation and maintenance. These expenditures have not been incorporated into the appropriation bill, but they are foot by taxpayers. Can we make use of technology and streamlining administration procedures to lower the operating and production cost of public housing? In order to effectively control expenditure and to resolve livelihood problems and to provide quality service, the main thing is to make good use of resources to ensure that expenditure on social welfare, healthcare, education is well used and there is no wastage and no abuse. Well, enhancing administrative procedure is necessary. Civil servants should be encouraged to increase their efficiency and effectiveness, and that is also necessary. I so submit to support the heads standing part of the schedule, and I support the Appropriation Bill 2023 and its third reading.
Dr. Wendy Hung, thank you, President. I agree with the clerks, including all the subheads into the schedule. In the second reading debate, I express concern regarding government spending. Now, according to the Financial Secretary, we have solid reserves, but I would like to talk about the trend of Hong Kong becoming a welfare state. In the last 5 years, our medical expenditure increased 44%, welfare increased 52%, education expense increased 21.6%. Now, it is actually more than that. For example, we build a lot of public housing. It is not a one-off investment. Every year, we have to spend tens of billions on maintenance and repairs. Now, what is the future trend? This increasing spending gives rise to a lot of concern. We cannot move towards a Western welfare state model. We want to provide a safety net for those at the underprivileged. Now, the use of resources should be to support the underprivileged and help youth move a social ladder. To improve social mobility, we need to build more job opportunities, more housing opportunities. Now, we're building a lot of public housing, but those in the middle class, that is the poor middle class, they are not eligible for public housing. They have to pay heavy mortgages, so sometimes they are living even worse than those in public housing. So that will give rise to a lot of problems. Hong Kong currently is facing this issue, especially in the housing area. Now, I need to remind everybody that we are biased towards public housing. There is an insufficient supply of middle-class housing. We are not encouraging people to move up the social ladder. We are encouraging the young to lie flat. Now, a lot of industrialists tell me, a lot of young workers, they want to have no pay leave. They don't want, because if their salaries go up, their burdens increase. So once again, I would like to express to the FS that you should spend more resources to build a social ladder, to improve mobility, social mobility. Thank you, President. Does any other member wish to speak? If not, I now call upon the public officers to speak. Then the debate will come to a close. Does any public officer wish to speak? FS? President, I would have a few remarks. Now, regarding the questions just now, we do have a large public housing construction phase. We looked at their budget. They have a housing authority has a solid budget. They also have sufficient reserves. And when the HA builds public housing, they also have HOS flats for the middle class. The SAR provides a lot of land premiums. So when they develop these housing, they can build up their reserves. It also supports their building of public rental housing. So that is one supplement I wish to provide. Secretary for Labor and Welfare, President, some members touch upon this area. Dr. Dek Chi Yun talked about cutting expenses. Now, all government bureaus and departments have to participate. Now, for labor and welfare, we have reduced our spending by 280 million. I understand Dr. Dick is very concerned about this area. So we have 170 agencies that apply for funding. They can keep up to 25% of the budget. They are now at the maximum of the reserves. They are, and if I remember correctly, they have in some 5 billion in reserves. So there is some adjustment, but they need some reserves to do their work. So I do discuss this matter with them. I hope Dr. Tick can understand. The other issue is about helping the needy. Dr. Tick asked, do we have any KPIs? In the past, there was only one KPI, income. But in this term of government, we wish to have a multi-pronged approach. Let's use the example of elderly. We have single elderlies, and 80% of them are unemployed. How do you measure the income? Now, if you look at these 550,000 elderly, they have their own property. So I just want to point out that in our accurate, focused approach, in the example of the elderly, aside from money, they need care. So we have double elderly, single elderly. Only 12%, 1 out of 8, have a domestic helper. 7 don't have helpers. So how do you take care of them? So when we take a focused approach, we have to look at many other factors. We have to look at their mental health and their psychological needs. Does any other public officer wish to speak? So I now put the question to you that the sums for all the heads read out by the clerk stand part of the schedule. Those in favor, please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. So I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. The committee has dealt with all the heads in the schedule. I now put the question to you that the schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor, please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now propose the question to you that the following clause stand part of the bill. Clauses 1 and 2. I wish to remind members that the committee will now proceed to a debate on the 2 clauses standing part of the bill. Members may state during the debate if they support the bill as a whole. Upon the conclusion of the debate, the committee will vote on the 2 clauses standing part of the bill. Louis Lung, President. Regarding the budget this year, I support that in principle, especially strengthening the training of the construction industry and the use of high tech. So I hope that this can be endorsed as soon as possible. Does any other member wish to speak? If not, I now call upon public officers to speak. Then the debate will come to a close. Does any public officer wish to speak? FS? President, I just want to add that just now we talked about the budget, and I just want to add one point. So aside from developing the economy, we also need the public to feel happy. So in the budget, we suggested that we have a Happy Hong Kong series of events. So as you are aware, when we attract businesses and investors to Hong Kong, we already have a series of measures. Happy Hong Kong last Saturday had already we already kicked off the food festival and $30 movie theater event. Now we also have an event this Saturday in Sha Tin and another one in Kwun Tong. So I hope members and the public can participate. Aside from that, we also work with the Tourism Bureau, where they have a land sea carnival along the promenade. There will be different performances. We also have to thank members. You have provided a lot of support in these events. So this event, we can't rely on the government alone. A lot of NGOs, including the MTR, the West Kowloon Cultural District, Science Park, the Cyberport, they all chipped in, and I'd like to thank you. So the committee now votes on the clauses standing part of the bill. The clauses 1 and 2 stand part of the bill. Those in favor, please raise your hands. Those against, please raise your hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. All the proceedings on the Appropriation Bill 2023 have been concluded in Committee of the Whole Council. The Council now resumes. Financial Secretary. President, I now report to the Council that the Appropriation Bill 2023 has been passed by Committee of the Whole Council without amendment. I move that the motion adopt the report. FS, I'm sorry, President. I now I move the motion that this Council adopts the report. So the question to you is that the Financial Secretary's motion be passed. In accordance with the rules of procedure, this motion shall be voted on without amendment or debate. Those in favor, please raise your hands. Those against, please raise your hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. Third reading, Appropriation Bill 2023, Financial Secretary.